essential requirement in the African bush is the ability to knock up a meal under the burning sun. So I'm off to see my chums who are somewhere at the end of this barren trail. Nearly 100 years ago, at a time when all the big animals in the bush were being gradually wiped out by big game hunters and settlers, the first Boer president after independence, Paul Kruger, set up a game reserve on the eastern border of South Africa and Mozambique. And his dream lives on today. Day 27 in the bush, and it's been hell. But today, it's Sunday. I was up at 5:30, went for my usual run into church, and now, to set up the sun in a proper way, an invigorating bowl of porridge. But no porridge is complete without a glass of whiskey inside it. So you pop in some whiskey like that, and stir it through, and then you get a ladle or two of that stuff, pop it into your handmade, handcrafted African craft bowl, big lump of that stuff. Then, into that, you pour a bit of rich double cream around the whole thing, wonderful cream. Then you put some pistachio nut flavored honey onto that. And my goodness, I could toss a caber any day of the week after a plateful of that. But there's more to Sunday than the big breakfast, because this is the big breakfast. And those of you who panic and worry at home about your little twee middle-class dinner parties, and you spend all days with recipe books and in Sainsbury's and Tesco's, look at this lot. In the bush, with nothing but a wood stove, Deirdre, my latest greatest chum, whose name I've forgotten, called her something else quite differently on the rehearsal, which we don't, is making what?
I'm making a smoked fish kedgeree.
What have you put into it?
I've cooked some onions, and then I added the rice and the smoked fish and some curry powder and turmeric.
Rachel, #1 cook as well. And Sina, what are you doing here?
I do some impala chipotle done with onion and mushroom and red pepper.
So that's kebabs. And what are you doing, old fruit?
I'm doing an open omelette, just with a variety of ingredients, and you top it with cheese and you grill it in slices and wedges.
Oh, it's great stuff. So your ingredients are, in fact, fried potatoes, bits of ham and bacon, and, of course, eggs whisked up with a bit of milk. Ashley and Dumi, they're cooking. What are you cooking? Sausages in champagne?
Yes, I'm cooking warthog sausages in champagne, done with caramelized apples with brown sugar and cinnamon.
And then I'm making a mealie griddle cake to serve it on.
OK, well, just tell us what mealie is, please, because don't all of us know that.
Mealie's another name for corn. It's quite popular here in Africa as a staple food. And what we've done is we've just blended it with some egg yolks and cream and a bit of flour, and we fold it in some egg whites.
And then what we do, we nick one.
Nick one and taste it.
And taste it. Oh, that's nice. You put sugar into it as well. You didn't tell me that.
A little bit of sugar.
A little bit of sugar. That's wonderful. Mealie cakes for breakfast. Another day in paradise. That elephant seems to have taken a shine to us. It keeps following us about. I shall call him Hector. Do you know that hectares eat their way through nearly half a ton of vegetation and 50 gallons of water every day? What with all that food and breaking down of trees, bushes and hotel fences, it's no wonder the place looks a bit devastated. The Kruger National Park now covers around 9,000 square kilometres, and it's a sanctuary for the widest variety of animals in the whole African continent. But it's the big five that everyone comes to see: elephant, rhino, buffalo, leopard, and of course lions. The so-called king of the beasts once ranged throughout Africa, but were easy targets for hunters and herders. And now they're confined to reserves and sanctuaries where they can be viewed from the comfort of a Land Rover, with a trusty ranger by your side, of course. They hunt for 2 hours or so every few days, and having gorged on their prey, they spend the rest of their time just lying around in the shade, dozing and looking at the tourists looking at them. And gathered in their prize like this, they look deceptively friendly. But one step out of your car and you're gone. But they seem to be... We've watched them moving in little packs of their own, little groups of 3 and 4.
You find that they'll do that. Some might move off to the next piece of shade or whatever the case may be, and then move on. Lions being very social animals. They're very loving and caring towards each other, liking to lie up next to each other, cleaning each other at times. So a very close-knit unit. Okay, getting back to the about being quite different when feeding. It's a total frenzy, and it's everyone for themselves basically. And at times, even the young guys who are in this feeding frenzy may even get severely injured or even killed.
Really?
Just from a swipe from a big male could break a youngster's back or something.
I really enjoy these boys' own mini breaks, you know. It's great fun fantasizing that you are following in the footsteps of great writers, explorers and wildlife experts. Hemingway, David Attenborough, Biggles, Livingstone and all. Anyway, on to the next sketch. And I promise you, there'll be no puerile jokes in this one. Oh, good Lord, it's the mother-in-law. Sorry. Is this noise because of us, or...?
Yeah, they're just letting everyone know that there's something around. Yeah. But they communicate between each other like that anyway.
Right. But they're huge.
But
they're very dangerous in the river for humans.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't exactly venture in here. But I think they're probably more dangerous when they've got youngsters. Right. And if you find them out of the water and you get between them and the water, they feel threatened and all they want to do is get back to their protection, which is the water, obviously.
Right.
And if they encounter you in the path, yeah, it is dangerous. You know, hippo is being recorded of killing most human beings in Africa per year.
Chris, do you think you could tear yourself away from your newfound chums and get on with the real part of this programme, please, which is cooking? Otherwise, ring up David. He'll give you a job, I'm sure. Now then, one of the most prolific and also, sadly, one of the most attractive antelopes in this area is the impala. And this is a big chunk. This is a big shoulder of impala. So I thought I'd make a rather spicy, good fun curry today. So we've got impala chopped up into bits there. Got onions and curry powders and stuff like that. But because this part of South Africa, Southern Africa, specialises in dried fruits, I thought I'd combine the two things, the gamey texture of the impala with some luscious South African dried fruits. They are worth a quick close-up. I know they're the ones we get at Christmas time in England, but these are fresh dried fruits, if you see what I mean. They haven't been in store for the last 9 months, so they're really, really, really delicious. And the other important thing today is my new totally mobile cooker. You see, cooking in a wheelbarrow. I mean, I've cooked in some strange things before in my time, but never before in a wheelbarrow. So it's something you can do at home, in the garden, on Sunday morning. Get the old coals into the wheelbarrow, whip down to the Chinese restaurant, borrow the wok, set it up, and start cooking, which I'm going to do. And could you tell them to shut up just from time to time, please? I know they're very nice, and I know they live here, but they're a little bit of a nuisance. So some oil goes in first of all. This is a sensational cooking spot. It really is. Then some onion. No, we don't need that. Stir that around for a little bit so it browns. Add in the impala. Get that all nicely browned. Now we shall add in our curry powder, our curry paste. And let that sizzle away just for a moment until the meat is nicely taken with the flavours there. Then I'll add some garlic and some crushed chilies, or some sliced chilies rather. And let that just simmer away for about 15 or 20 minutes. And since you love them so much, why don't you pop back and have a look at your chums again? These hippos are just like my cameraman, you know, a bit lacking in the hair department and dedicated vegetarians. They just spend all day paddling around riverbeds, munching anything green. The hippos, that is, not Chris. So that's been cooking away for about 20 minutes or so. I added a little drop of water just to moisturise it. Now it needs a bit of seasoning by the way of salt. A little bit of salt. And then I'll pop in my dried fruits, which are dried plums, apricots, apples, dates, and some figs, like so. And then I shall add a little chopped, beautifully fresh coconut. Give that a stir. Getting quite dry now, but we're going to make it really moist and delicious with something else in just a second. But Chris, if I just show you something else here, this stuff which I'll hold up to you is called stamp, and it's corn ears just boiled in water, used here in this part of South Africa very often as an alternative to rice. It's a jolly nice accompaniment to something hot and spicy like this. Right. Where's my wooden spoon? Lost my... Oh, there it is. Now, once again, for the sauce, some coconut milk. I'll quickly chop some fresh coriander, without which, in my view, no kind of curry is complete. This dish, which as yet hasn't got a name, will be now known as the Londolozi, Impala and Fruit Curry. I rest my case. Thank you. Not all game rangers are big macho chaps. My latest chum is Jackie, who's not just prettier than the others, but she's also in charge of their training.
One of the most dangerous animals in Africa. If you're hunting them, that's why they're part of the big five. But you find that a lot of people hunt buffalo because they tend to circle around when wounded and attack the hunter. So it obviously makes it more exciting for the hunter, but sometimes the hunter lands up being killed as well. What's quite interesting about the calves is they actually suckle from behind, not from the side as cattle do. Oh. And that's an adaptation to them always being on the move.
Oh, right, so they can actually eat.
They can suckle and
move at the same time.
You can actually tell the difference between the males and the females by looking at the horns. The males have got very thick bosses on top of their heads. The females have their horns almost coming right out of their heads.
Actually, they're quite attractive, the female ones, aren't they?
Yeah. The reason the males have the thick bosses is for fighting. They fight for dominance. And they say that when they actually clash, it's equivalent to a vehicle traveling at about 30 kilometers per hour and hitting a brick wall.
Fascinating. Anyway, that's enough wildlife for the moment. I have an overwhelming urge for a light snack, something ordinary, something familiar. On the label of the bottle, it says it's the cream of the crop. Well, the guys that work with me, they're also the cream of the crop. And although they've been bursting across deserts and bush and islands and seaplanes and boats and stuff like that, eating crocodile, eating snakes, eating impala, they've actually gone on strike. They said, we want a Floyd-type meal for our lunch today because we want to watch the television. We're fed up with being in the bush. We're fed up with being in the jungle. So I'm going to cook them a kind of a biryani. But it's not going to be a biryani. It's going to be half a biryani, half a paella. We're drawing on Spain, Africa, India, and a bit of me. So we've placed all these wonderful ingredients on the table. Start over here. We've got some lemons, some hard-boiled eggs, some tomatoes, toasted almonds, deep-fried crunchy onions, sultanas, chopped up tomatoes, garden peas. Where else does a pea come from, I ask myself? Peppers, onions, back over here some basmati rice, pieces of free-range chicken, which one of my cameramen shot this morning. No, he didn't, honestly. We bought them in the supermarket. And over here, we've got some ginger, some cardamom, some curry powder, some chilies, some bay leaves, garlic, and turmeric and stuff like that. So, first, put the chicken pieces in the hot oil, stir them round and brown them. And this will cheer up the boys, I know it will. So, we let that sizzle away for a moment or two. Because this is real-time cooking and it has to be genuinely edible at the end, I occasionally have to have a slurp. Something I haven't been doing too much of. But this South African wine is dead tasty, I can assure you. 2 bits of onion. We add the rice. And it's very important when you're making this kind of paella or this kind of biryani or this kind of dish, you must absorb the rice with lots and lots of oil. So that goes in a big quantity like that. Just stay there, Chris, I'm right back. And the idea is to get all this oil really soaked into the rice. And that is probably about right. Now, the next thing that we do we chuck in to that some curry powder. And for those of you cookery book editors, magazine editors, and all those kind of things, it's that much, okay? We don't really know if it's 3 ounces or 4 ounces, because when you're cooking on this size, it doesn't really matter. You just put in what is right. Then we add a little bit of garlic. Then we add a little bit of turmeric, like that. A bit of cinnamon, and a couple of cardamoms. And while the oil is still here, we mix all of that together again. And indeed, gosh, if we had scratch and smell television, I can tell you that the aromas coming of this already are sensational. We'll add a little bit more butter into this now, because these dishes really benefit from lots of butter, or ghee you would use, which is clarified butter. Okay, so the rice, the spices, and the chicken are all now mixed together. And then here's the boring bit. The boring bit is we now cover that with chicken stock and let it simmer for about, I don't know, half an hour or an hour, until the rice has pluffed up. So, it's splendidly cooked. Now it's time to add the last few little pieces, which are in fact the peas. So we chuck the peas in. And because they're frozen peas, they need hardly any cooking at all. Just the heat of the dish will deal with those. Then we add in some tomato pieces. We like those to be slightly raw inside, just warmed through by the heat of the dish. And then some sultanas. Now that is our basic dish. And garnish with hard-boiled eggs, tomatoes, crispy onions, almonds and coriander, and there you have it. A chicken biryani, a kind of an African paella. There's time on these flights to ponder the changing face of Africa. Without buying a new atlas every few years, it's hard to keep up with the way things are changing. Zimbabwe, where I'm going, was until 1980 part of Rhodesia. The other part became Zambia. Again, vast areas of the country are covered with scrubby bush, but my destination is the lush green Eastern Highlands and a place called Burma Valley. Many of the names are left over from colonial days. The mountains here are locally known as the Himalayas, by the way. This is an area rich in tobacco and coffee plantations, and bananas. Half of all the world's bananas are grown in Africa, but most of them never reach the export market. It's a much underrated fruit, only about 1% fat, 21% carbohydrate, and the rest is mainly water. Custom-designed fruit for slimmers, obviously. Round here, it's also a major source of employment, and whole villages have grown up to cultivate bananas. And as much as I like bananas, and I really do, I wouldn't fancy having to carry them around like these guys do. They weigh a ton. Cooking bananas out in the Ulu like this could drive you bananas, and it also poses quite a few problems for a modern 20th century cook used to gas cookers and things. So I sought advice and delegated the hard work to my chums to prepare an earth oven, while I had a lie-in and took the bus to work. Which turned out to be a really good call. It was the school bus, and it was really good fun. In fact, I wanted to stay on the bus and go to their school. But you know, there is no peace for the wicked, and I had to check out the earth oven. A simple pit with a fire inside it below a steel sheet, and a fire above it on another steel sheet. Simple it might look, but simple it ain't. I'm too corrupted by sophisticated, expensive Western gadgets to think that this is simple. And it's no good thinking just because you've got a £20,000 fitted kitchen at home that cuts any ice out here, because it doesn't. Shouldn't smoke while you're cooking. Shouldn't smoke at all. Bad for you. Christian to film me either. Anyway, that's the caramel sauce for sliced apples nearly ready. Right. What do you cook on a banana plantation? You can cook banana splits, banana fritters, deep-fried bananas, roasted bananas, boiled bananas. No, I'm not going to do that. I decided that we should cook some rabbit and bananas. So what I've got, Chris, very simply, is from this lovely fresh rabbit, some little fillets of the loin of rabbit cut off, some apples which I cooked over the wood fire and pureed and passed them through a sieve, a little bit of rabbit stock, a little bit of double cream, some brandy, some butter, and some onions. And it's as simple as that. Come with me. All right, do take it steady there, boy. You haven't had a drink yet. Now, this is great fun. This is the little village where we've dragged all these people because the kids, the mothers, the dads, they're all harvesting bananas. But needless to say, they're quite curious as to what this idiot Englishman is doing here with some stainless steel pans and some bananas, when they, of course, cook very sensibly, very simple things like boiled maize, relish, and a bit of stewed meat. So, onions go in first. Let's pull that back a bit from the heat. Let those simmer a while. Then we'll pop in a couple of fillets of rabbit. 1, 2, 3, and 4. A bit of salt and pepper. Look at this lot. They don't believe me. Look behind me, Chris. They're looking in absolute astonishment at what I'm doing. Great fun. Absolutely terrific fun. Now we cook these until they take a little colour. Put up the heat a little bit. Wood mark 3.5 or 4 now. That's simmering away very nicely. Get the brandy ready. This took hours to get. What does it taste like? It's very good stuff, actually. Oh, God, Bennett. Watch your lens, number one, because that is a very important part of it. Now we take the little fillets out, place them there for the time being. And we pop in the apple puree. And all the best laid plans of mice and men can sometimes go awry. Scott, bring me a yellow banana, quickly. The whole point of this dish is bananas. I think I'm going bananas. Pop those into the apple and brandy puree. A little cream. A little tiny bit of rabbit stock. Now, this isn't so daft as you might think. I mean, you eat pig with apple sauce, you eat turkey with cranberry jelly, etc., etc. So apples and bananas should go really well with rabbit. Hold on a second. And we'll garnish that with some little caramelized apples. Anyway, there we are. Rabbit and bananas and apple and brandy. Not many out of 10 for that one. However, they are very honest, these food critics. Right, I'm going to attempt what is probably impossible and cook a banana pudding in an underground oven, which I've never worked with before. I'm not even sure if it's properly made by the experts, so we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, whisk up some cream is the first thing to do. And chuck in a couple of egg yolks. say 3 egg yolks so I can get the whole one in. There we are. And then a little tiny drop of vanilla essence. Like so. Some bananas. Pop the bananas into the little pillavit dish. Now this you can actually make at home in your oven. This really will work in your own oven, a properly controlled oven, but whether it's going to work in the Imperial Field Kitchen remains to be seen. That all around it, like so. Then, using a suitably hygienic implement like your hands, you sprinkle brown sugar across the top of that. And then we place it. Oh, Jesus, it's hot down here. We put that in there. We put the oven back on top and hope for the best. And for cookery editors everywhere, it's about 20 minutes at Earthmark hot. Very nearly perfect. Virtually a banana souffle. And now I say it myself, I'm pretty proud of me. Let's just test it and see what it's like. It's wonderful. Would anybody like to try it? It's bananas. Daylight come and I want to go home.